Well, hey, everybody. I'm SEU President Ken Engel, and as always, joined by our VP for Student Development, Dr. Bethany Thomas. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, either you've been on the road or I've been on the road, and I think hopefully we're back for the rest of the season. But everybody, you're watching SEU Now, our weekly update show where we keep you informed, educated on everything happening right now at SEU. Yeah. And excited about today's podcast. We are joined by two students who've just recently returned from one of our spring break missions trips.
So
we welcome Claire Phypers and Josh Robertson to the show today. Welcome.
Thank
and
you.
Look forward to our conversation and appreciate you out of your busy schedules coming over and chatting with us.
Yeah.
Over spring break, our missions department sent a total of 175 students to serve through 12 trips in 7 nations on 4 continents. And Josh and Claire were 2 of 24 student leaders. And in just a few minutes, we're going to have an opportunity to hear from them about all the amazing experiences that you went through.
Yeah.
But before, we always talk about, the top 3 things that are happening at Southeastern. Wish we had time for more, but we'll give you the 3 top ones. First of all, later this afternoon, our fire softball team will kick off a doubleheader against Thomas University. That starts at 1 p.m. on our home field. It's set to be a great matchup. Be sure to head over to the field in a few hours to show your school's spirit and cheer on our world-famous fire girls softball team. I mean, they've been national news in the last few weeks over their kindness and so great to see and cheer them on. Second thing, tomorrow, March 30th, our Office of Student Success will be hosting a halfway bash.
Yeah.
Now, what's that all about?
That's great. It's a celebration of students who have officially reached the half point of their degree.
Oh, okay.
I was a little confused because I was like, we're more than halfway past the semester.
I feel like there's got a few weeks left.
But I think it's celebrating people to be like, hey, you've halfway made it through, whatever degree they're in or whatever degree they're seeking. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
And it's going to be at the Steelman Library patio.
Yep, at 4 o'clock.
Which is a great place at 4 p.m. Yeah, special speakers, refreshments, student gifts. Be sure to stop by and show your support.
Who doesn't want a free gift?
I know. And I'm kind of curious. What refreshments are they going to have?
I know. Let's get it.
Got to see what. Yeah. All right. If this is too close to lunch, I think we're all
just
lunch hungry.
salivating.
So
I'm going to eat my microphone.
All right. The final one is the School of Music will hold a brass quintet concert next Tuesday, April 4th. That's going to be at 7:30 in the band room of Buena Vida East.
That'll be great.
Everybody's invited to attend. It's a free night of music, which is great.
Yeah.
So don't miss it. So come out and support all of these wonderful things. And, of course, there's all kinds of things going on.
Yeah.
We're nearing the end, aren't we?
It's so like 4 weeks away.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Graduation. So it'll be exciting. Well, let's start off our conversation with Claire and Josh. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, what year you are, both of you here at SEU, and what you're studying and what's going on.
Yeah.
We'll start with you.
Okay. So my name is Claire. I'm studying social work here at SEU. I will be graduating this December, which is so weird to think about. But I absolutely love social work. Super passionate about missions. I feel called full-time to missions. And going in, I was like, what can I do that's going to give me like a holistic education? What can I do that's going to prepare me to go out? And so I decided to go social work. It's been the best thing. Wow. I've absolutely loved being at SEU. I've been a part of Res Life. I'm currently a part of our Department of Spiritual Formation for our missions team. Been a part of Student Senate, tour guide, and so also a lifeguard on campus, which is super fun.
Fun fact.
But yeah, I love SEU. I feel like I'm definitely on the path moving forward when I graduate this December. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's great.
Well, I'm a senior studying communications, so I'm good at talking and absolutely nothing else. So being on a podcast really works out.
So you graduate in April, like in a couple weeks.
In a little under a month.
That's wild.
Who's counting? It's crazy. But I've been a communication major my whole time here, which has been really cool, just getting to see like the different forms of communication and like how that plays out. And over my time at SU, I've gotten to be on like Res Life. I work in admissions as a tour guide. I've gotten to be a lead ambassador and kind of like advocate for SU to other people, which has been great. And I'm also on the school's improv team, so hopefully fun.
And you are the reigning homecoming king.
I was homecoming king.
Yep.
It was very fun.
Yep. That's exciting.
That is amazing. And now, what inspired both of you to get involved in missions?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so my first missions trip with SEU was a trip to Baltimore, Maryland, which was a great time. But on our first day there, we were riding around with our contact, and they were going around the city and just talking about like the systematic homelessness and redlining and different things like that really hurt people in a lot of ways and keeps them in a bad position in life. And as she was like explaining these different concepts, I really felt like the Lord was tugging on my heart and saying, this is where you come in. And ever since then, I've really wanted to be a part of missions and help advocate and use my platform as a way to lift up other people that may not have that platform or have that voice, and just love other people and hear their stories and see how I can be an asset to those people that are looking to elevate and might be stuck in like systematic poverty and homelessness and things like that.
Wow.
That's great. Now, requirements for those who might be watching and listening right now, students, requirements to be a leader for a trip. What would those be?
Yeah. So usually our geo leaders have been on at least one SEU mission trip before, sometimes two. There are people that lead in their everyday lives, so they're naturally just shepherding the people around them, which is incredible to see. Usually people express interest, but sometimes it's people within our department that are like, hey, I've seen that within this person, and I really think we should reach out to them. And so there's an application for it that you get over the summer. You kind of express, this is the type of trip I would be interested in leading, or I don't really care, put me wherever. And then we kind of go from there. But typically you've had to been on an SU missions trip before and kind of had that recommendation from your leader or from your peers around you. And then we reach out to you and you go from there.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Now, Claire, can you give us a little bit of background information behind your trip? What was the heart behind the specific destination that you went to?
Yeah. I could talk about it forever. So me and one of my best friends led a trip with 10 other girls to Northern Ireland.
Wow.
And people hear that and it's like, oh, you're going to Ireland for spring break. But it was absolutely incredible. We worked with the YWAM Restrever, which is a YWAM base on the border of Ireland, the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. And what a lot of people, especially in our generation, don't know is that there has been so much bloodshed there because of conflict between the Protestant and the Catholic Church there. You can kind of compare it to racial tensions and relations here in a lot of ways. I heard that comparison a lot while we were over there. But Protestants and Catholics don't go to school together. There's just now being integrated schools. Most people don't have a friend of the different denomination until they're in their 20s. It's very, very tense. We were working with people whose parents and grandparents were murdered on the streets for their faith, and it was neighbor against neighbor for so long from the late 60s all the way up to like the early 2000s, and the tensions are still there. And so going there, our main heart for it all was reconciliation. What can we do to partner with YWAM and what they're doing long term, and what does it look like to step into an environment and foster a culture of reconciliation, and what can we learn in that? And I feel like one of the biggest things that I really took away from it was that reconciliation isn't these big mountaintop moments. It's the restoration of normalcy. And so there were so many incredible things I can get into, but one of the biggest things is we got to go in and have conversations with Catholics and Protestants about normal everyday life and how beautiful is the ministry of presence.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just saying, and it said that you got to participate in some kind of St. Patrick's Day celebration. Yeah. What was that like in Ireland of all places?
Oh my gosh, yes, like bucket list checked off for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had a St. Patrick's Day service, and we were in a city called Armagh, and so that's actually like St. Patrick considered that his hometown. I definitely encourage you to look up the history behind St. Patrick. He is just a father of faith for Ireland. Really incredible story. But we were there, and there's a lot of history of division in that city and area. But basically, there was a service put on by the Archbishop of the Catholic Church and the Archbishop of the Protestant Church there. They did a lecture, and then we did a prayer walk between both St. Patrick's cathedrals for the Protestant and Catholic Church there. We did a prayer walk, and then there was a final service. They were in the same room, ministering to a group of people, reading God's word together, Catholics and Protestants, just coming together through the message of St. Patrick and what he did for his community. And it was truly one of the most beautiful things.
That's cool.
And to be with my team and to look around and to see everyone, it just kind of was starting to click for everyone of like, this is a big deal that people are just in a room together. Like, how crazy is that? And So we got to hear about that and hear their hearts for the oppressed, for the marginalized, and what reconciliation looks like in the small ways, but also in the bigger ways too, which is really awesome. And then afterwards, we were able to pray for people, have coffee and tea with a lot of the ladies within all different types of churches, and it was really, I can't stress it enough, one of the most beautiful and healing and challenging experiences, because it really knocked down all of my expectations of what reconciliation is.
Wow,
it's about just being yourself and inviting other people to do the same, because for years, generations and generations, people couldn't do that at all.
That's powerful.
It's sad because there's so many elements of both faith they share.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to, I would think that you would want to, celebrate those things.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of what helps that.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's good. Now tell us a little about your experience and your trip. And now, did you lead the entire trip, create the trip? How was it? How did it happen?
Right. So our trip actually, it wasn't directly associated with SEU missions.
Okay.
But we received the contact from Stephanie Bernitas, who's the director of missions, which is really cool. Just because the border is considered really unstable. It's considered a level 4 by Homeland Security, so SU couldn't directly sponsor it, but we still had a willing team that was willing to go and serve, and we still had the heart of SU while we were there. And I actually didn't get to be the lead until about a week up. It was a yes I got to make last minute, and it was the best yes I think I've ever given. Wow. But it's kind of cool how it all came full circle, because this time last year I was actually living in New York City. And I got put in a group chat with a bunch of people, and they said, hey, there's this organization called Practice Mercy at the border. You should read up on them, see what they do. And I was like, oh, cool. And then cut to about a semester later when I'm back at SEU from my internship. Yeah. And Molly Tuning, who was my other co-lead on the trip, she was like, Josh, I feel like this would be a great trip for you. And I was like, oh, who's it with? And it was the organization that Steph had plugged earlier, which was really cool.
That's so cool.
And then during missions week, they got to Alma Ruth, who was the head of Practice Mercy, she came on campus and got to meet her, and she's a phenomenal human being. And so through that, the trip kind of got formed, and then Molly and Dylan, they helped a lot with the fundraising and putting the team together. And then once the trip actually came, we had some stuff happen, and I got put as the co-lead with Molly, and it was great, and our team was so good.
That's incredible.
That's great.
Now, what would you guys do day to day? I'm so sorry.
I was just going to say, what cities did you serve in?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Great question.
So the two ones that we went to whenever we crossed was Matamoros and Reynosa.
Okay. All right.
Never heard of those.
Yeah, they're both really great cities. They're both considered dangerous, but at the same time, Alma, she's served there for a long time, and she knows where to go, where not to go, what areas are safe.
Sure.
And we had a team with us, so there was no point that we ever felt like we were in any danger.
Yeah.
Because she was so knowledgeable.
And what did the day-to-day look like on that trip?
So something that Practice Mercy really emphasizes is the ministry of presence. Just because you're going into these refugee camps with people that have been on survival mode for so long, they don't really trust anyone. So the first thing that we would do is walk around and just kind of introduce ourselves to people, get to know them, hear their story. A story I want to tell is one of our team members, Anna, she actually spoke Haitian Creole. And one of the camps we served at was a Haitian camp. And so we would be giving out clothes, but the Haitian culture is very chaotic, but not in a way that it's dangerous. It's just they were all very on edge, and Anna would just touch their arm and say hey, how are you? And immediately you just saw their guard just fall by seeing someone that's just so invested and intentional with just that conversation and actually caring about them and getting to know them. And so that'd be about the first half, was just making connections and getting to know people. And then during the second half of the day after lunch, we would get to serve people in a more practical way. So for example, the first day that we were in the camp in Matamoros, we had Dr. Will McCorkle with us, and he was an eye doctor, I believe. And so we'd go around asking people if they needed glasses, just going from tent to tent. ¿Tú necesitas lente? ¿Tú necesitas lentes? And then if they say yes, you're
so cool.
Okay, follow. And they'd come with us. We'd give them a brief eyeglass test, see which one looks better, which one does this one have. We had a eye board taped to the tree.
Wow.
And so through that, we'd kind of discover what kind of glasses they need, because a lot of people, they had really bad vision and their glasses had been broken or lost on their pilgrimage to Mexico. And so through that, we were able to kind of provide them in a practical sense, but also at the beginning of the day, we got to just get to know them and be relational with them and practice the ministry of presence.
Now, I understand you were featured on some of the local news, especially focusing on your work with refugees and asylum seekers. Tell us about that and how important that is to get your news out of what you do.
Of course. Yeah, the advocacy is so important. If I could quote one of the members of my team, Josh Carrascal, he's actually a DACA student, so a lot of the themes and heaviness on this trip was really important to him. And he sent me this quote. He said, "The advocacy for immigrants is important for me because I've lived it. So many times I wanted to not look at limitations, thinking it was my ultimate weakness, though the Lord showed that it is just a place for him to work in and through." And I think that speaks a lot. And obviously my experience isn't directly associated with his. But also when you think of immigration, you immediately think left-wing issue, right-wing issue. You immediately think politics, policies. Yeah. But when you're looking in the eyes of a mom whose daughter was lost on the Darien Gap, those policies don't matter. All that you can think is, that's God's son, that's God's daughter. And something Alma would always say is the problem of immigration, it's a matter of life. And it's a matter of, you have people that are dying at the border every single day just trying to get across. And as Christians, if we care about life, we should be there to serve them and love them. And it's just such an saturated group of people there. Like, there's not a lot of people that are doing that kind of work. And especially as a faith-based people, we talk about, oh, we're called to go into all the nations, but the nations are coming to us. Yeah. And they're there at the border. We met with so many different people from Haiti, people from Ecuador, Salvador, Venezuela. Like, just, there's so many people there, and they all have such intense stories, and they're all just so desperate to have a better life for their families, for their kids.
Yeah. Now, Claire, how did your time in Northern Ireland impact you personally? If you could share like your biggest takeaway from the trip, what would that be?
Yeah. I think something that I didn't quite expect but has been just like truly life altering was the way that it impacted my leadership in general. I'd led a trip before. Leadership is something that is very important to me, but to sit with a group of women who love the Lord so much and love people so much and know what it means, kind of, as Josh was talking about, to look into someone's eyes and to feel things with them. It was truly so special, but also to walk through what does it look like to be met with disappointment when your expectations of what it was supposed to look like and all the cultural nuances of Europe. Yeah. When they're met with disappointment, what does it look like as a leader to sit with people and not try to fix it, but to simply just be? And what does it look like to ask questions of God and not try to rush to find the answers, but to simply just be and to sit in his affection and to invite other people to do the same? So as a leader, I think it was one of the most assuring experiences I've ever had, simply because there wasn't a feeling of having to, like, act out of any sort of insecurity, but to just experience things and walk alongside people, because that's what the people at the YWAM base were doing. They're just walking alongside people, and we got to bless them. We got to watch their kids and do practical service throughout the week, but also just learn from them. Missions is a lot of going and doing and giving and serving and all these things, but the foundational piece really is loving God, loving your neighbor, and taking on a posture of learning. Yeah. And that was really the heartbeat of this trip, I think.
Yeah.
Final question for both of you. Based on your experience, those that are listening, that are contemplating, should I do a missions trip? Should I not? What would you say? What would you compel them to, the reason to join up and be a part of an experience like you've had?
I would say go for it. Yeah. Just say yes. Just because life is bigger than this room, than the state, than your experience. And going on missions trips and getting to experience other cultures, it really helps open your eyes to just the beautiful diversity that God has in the world, but also to the fact that the problems that we may face are very different than the problems that other people may face. And while I found my passion for people on missions trips, hopefully other people can do the same, or at least be able to hear the heart and stories of other people and be able to, like I said before, use their platforms to empower others that may not have that story or that platform.
Yeah. I feel like I could talk about this for forever. This is like the biggest thing that I'm passionate about. I think there's a lot of different reasons. I think one, because Jesus says so. He says us to go out he tells us to go out into the nations. He says to sit with people. He says to love people well. And so we get to go out and breaking bread with people, whether we think we're meeting needs or not. You get to go and you get to see Jesus in the eyes of people. Jesus says, whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me. So it's not just us going out and being Jesus to others. It's them being Jesus to us if we're looking at the scripture. And so I think that's something that's super, super special. But also, you get to be a part of the family. If we're looking specifically within the lens of SEU, our missions family is so, so, so incredible. We have different events all the time. The office door is always open, and it's just an opportunity to make friends with people that you may not have gotten to know before. Sure. So whether it's on a trip or off the trip, you get to be invited into something where people are pursuing God with everything that they have. They're learning about different cultural contexts. You're learning about how to be a leader, and you're also learning about the humility that it takes to do that. And the way God just truly is lacing all things together on this campus and off campus. We have local outreach, but you can also go to the U.S. or you can go out into the world. And so you have that sense of family, you have that sense of learning, and you get to go and you get to be obedient.
Yeah,
so.
That's great.
Yeah, no, powerful. And appreciate Claire and Josh for joining us today and sharing your experiences. They are life-changing. And anybody that does serve like you have served and done so with excellence, you're transformed. And that's why Jesus said, go out, love people. I mean, you know, he wired within each and every one of us this feeling of love and value and significance. And we all know that's happens when you're connected to Christ, but more importantly, Christ through others.
Yeah.
You know, spending time with people and loving them. And it's all about human story. And
that's good.
And so we're grateful that we have the privilege to serve, and thank you for the way you've served, and continue to do so. Yeah. Privilege. You have anything to add, Bethany, to that?
Just inspiring. You know, I just think it's so cool. And I've always wanted to go on a mission trip at SEU, and I just haven't had that step of faith yet, or that
we can
leap
make it happen.
I know.
We can make it happen.
That. Everyone's trying to plan the perfect trip for me, but I'm like, I just think it's so cool. It's always inspiring. Students get back, I'm like, I want to go.
Yeah.
And just trying to figure out what that trip looks like would be really cool. And I think it's less about what I could do for the other people, more about what that impact will do for me, being with the people like you said. So I just think it's really cool.
Yeah. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for joining us on SEU Now. As usual, keep up with the latest SEU news and updates online. Follow us on social media at SEU University, right? Yep. And at Ken_Engel and at Bethany T. Thomas.
That's right.
Hope you have an amazing week. We look forward to connecting with you next Wednesday.
See you then.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah.